So I want to share something that's been on my heart for a couple weeks now. We had been going through verse by verse through the letters in the New Testament, and I took a break for a couple weeks, and I thought I'd get back to that today. But then I'm like, you know what? I really want to share this. This is a good time to share it. So next week probably we'll get back into the New Testament letters. I love going through the Bible. The Bible is our life. The Bible is our food. That's our anchor to keep us solid, and from drifting away. It's so this is kind of going to be a little bit unusual message for me. Greg, he types in the Bible verses so that we can have them on the screen, and normally I have zillions of Bible verses. Today we have 2 Bible verses. That's it. But let me ask you a question first. So let's say you want to build a deck onto your house. Who are you going to ask? I'll give you 2 options. You're going to ask who are you going to ask for help to figure out how to build this deck? Are you going to go to the 15-year-old excited kid who just got a new job with a summer job building decks? Or the other option is a 60-year-old guy who's been building decks for 40 years and he knows everything about decks. Who are you going to ask for advice? 60-year-old. You might ask the 15-year-old to haul the lumber, but you ask the 60-year-old because he knows what he's doing. A few months ago, I had a random memory. Jesse and I don't know, maybe it was in the beginning of our marriage, probably 18 years ago or 15, 18 years ago, something like that. We went down to Chicago right before Christmas, and it was amazing. It was just this real magical feeling. Lights everywhere, Christmas decorations in the windows, all the stores and everything were decked out with trees and lights, and it was so cool feeling. It felt like being in a Christmas movie, and it was this really special feeling. And so a couple months ago, I had a memory of that, and someone had given us some money, and they said, "Hey, buy some Christmas presents for your kids with this." But our kids have enough stuff, and so I thought, what would be fun? Let's go to Chicago and let them experience that Christmas in Chicago feeling. So I started looking at our calendar, and I'm like, the only time we could go would be after Christmas. And so I'm like, well, maybe there'll be lights still up. So I started typing into Google. Google says there'll be lights up. But something in me was like, I don't know. It just doesn't feel right. And so then I told Jesse, hey, you're on Facebook all the time. Put something on Facebook. See if any of your Facebook friends have good advice. She's not on Facebook all the time. It's just I literally am never on Facebook. I think the last time I posted was 2 months ago. So I need to get on it more. She's on a few times a week, probably. So she goes on there and she posts, hey, does anybody know, would whatever dates it was, will Chicago still be a cool place for Christmas, or should we go another year? She got different people's opinions, and a lot were saying, yeah, go for it. Chicago's great no matter what. You'll have a good time. So we were still kind of unsure. And then I thought, you know what would be really good? Let's ask the people from Chicago. Right, yeah. So I go on TripAdvisor. I posted on there. I'm like, we're thinking of this, going after Christmas, but I don't want to go if it's just going to be like, I want my kids to experience the wonder of Chicago at Christmas time. And so we're willing to wait another year if you think it would be better. Everybody, 100% of them said, don't go after Christmas. Wait another year. Everything will be wilted and half decked out. It's not going to be good. It's going to be trashy looking. Wait next year. It'll blow your minds. So we're waiting next year. This year. That's this year. The point that I'm trying to make is if you want to be successful in something, you want to find someone who's done it, find someone who knows what it's about, ask them, go to them for advice. And so, building a deck, you go to the guy who really knows what he's doing. You go to the old guy. Going to Chicago at Christmas time, you ask the people who live in Chicago because they might know. What about life? Where can we go to find advice for life? One of the often overlooked resources that we have at our disposal to figure out how to live life, one answer is the Bible. It's an incredible instruction manual to show you how to give you advice on how to have a successful, fulfilling life. Another one, we'll look at Jesus, God. Have a relationship with God because he's the one that created life, so you'd think he probably knows a thing or two about it. Another often untapped resource that we have is older people who've actually lived, who've experienced life, who maybe at the end of their life, they can look back and say, man, I've had a good life. And they might have something that they can share and some wisdom they can give us. Or an older guy at the end of his life that looks back and he's like, oh, I wish I wouldn't have done that. I wish I would have changed this. Well, we can learn from that as well. So this message today, it's a different message for me. I'm calling it Lessons for Living from Those Who've Been There. It's inspired by this book that I read a couple weeks ago, 30 Lessons for Living, Tried and True Advice from the Wisest Americans. It's by Carl Pillemer, who wrote it in 2011. What he did was, Carl Pillemer, he studies, he's a doctor of aging or something. I don't know what the official term is, but he studies old people. And he in all sorts of different ways of that. Well, he met a very interesting older lady in a nursing home one time who had a very interesting perspective, a lot of optimism in the face of difficulties, and he thought, well, this is fascinating. And then he met another interesting old person, and he's learning he's getting wisdom from these guys. And so he thought, you know what? And he started getting heartbroken, realizing all these old people are going to die, and the wisdom they've gathered through the years is going to be gone. And so he got inspired to try to interview as many old people as he could find and ask them for lessons for life. And so that's what this book comes out of. He interviewed thousands of people between 65 and 102, I think is the oldest, asking them for, what did you learn in life? What advice would you give a younger person? And he was in his 50s when he wrote the book, and all these old guys are referring to him as a young guy. So he really appreciated that. So I read the book a few weeks ago, and it's not a Christian book. There are Bible verses that come up in it, and there's a lot of the wisdom that these elders share that I found was very shockingly, it aligned with the Bible a lot. Some things I disagreed with, not the ones that aligned with the Bible. I agreed with those. There were some that I thought, well, I think that's just his misinterpretation of something they said possibly, or well, that's a human's take on it. I go with God's take that's in the scriptures. But there are a number of things that came up in his interviews that really challenged me. And there's nothing that's been earth-shatteringly new, but a lot of things where God is pointing at, readjust this, refocus that. Constantly in my life, I'm thinking about, I want to finish well. There's a lot of, if you've been a Christian for any length of time, you can point to people who walked with God and then they walked away. And there's a lot of people that either they don't make it to the end as Christians. They walk away from God. They might believe in Jesus still, but they're bitter. They're hurt. Like Gene was talking about, people in the church that lose the softness and the gentleness in their hearts. They get hard and angry at the world. There's very few the old people that are still following God. So I'm always thinking about that. I want to finish well. I want to be an old guy who loves Jesus, loves his wife, loves his kids, and my wife loves me, and my kids love me, and I've made an impact in the world. He wrote this book interviewing these older people, and specifically to the generation that he's dealing with. He said he really wanted to gather their wisdom because they lived through some of life's most difficult challenges. Grew up in the Great Depression, World War I. Some of them grew up in World War I. And then you got the Great Depression, you got World War II, you've got the Cold War and fear of nuclear apocalypse and the advent of the digital world and all this stuff. They've lived through a lot of stuff. Some of the stories, these people, they grew up in Nazi Germany and had to flee Nazi Germany, and they went through a lot of difficult things. And this is a really valuable resource of what they've learned through that he's like, I don't want to lose that. I want to capture what they've gained so I can have it in me and give it to others. So again, this is not a Christian book. It's not the Bible. But there's a lot of that I read in here that hit home for me. And I thought, man, we're starting a new year, 2025. At least on our calendar that we use here. I don't know in the heavenly calendar. I don't know if January 1st or any of that matters to God. But it's a time that a lot of people in our culture, they start thinking about, all right, I want to change something. I want to give up smoking. I'm gonna actually exercise. And we make New Year's resolutions, and we try to adjust our life a little bit. And I thought, you know what? This is a good time, beginning of the year. Let's talk about this stuff. What can we learn from the wisest Americans, those who've actually lived through life, and maybe apply these things to our lives so that we wind up good, that we finish well, that we don't look back in our old age and go, oh, I wish I would have known this, because then I could have saved myself a whole lot of trouble. Proverbs 20:29. This is my one Bible verse. This is half the Bible that I'm going to share right here. But these are biblical themes that I'll be talking about. Proverbs 20:29. The glory of young men is their strength. Gray hair, the splendor of the old. If you've lived long enough to get some gray hair, there's some glory in that. It means that you haven't done anything so stupid that you're dead yet. You've made it this far. Woo, yeah, right? Oh, yeah. I've got one or two. Means that if you've lived long enough to have some gray hair, you've probably accumulated some wisdom, some knowledge in life, and we would be foolish to not gain from that. And in our world, in America, other cultures are different, but in America, we tend to denigrate old age. And we take our old people, we stick them in nursing homes, and then we get busy with our life and go, well, I don't know, grandma's just... But other cultures are different, and the Bible's viewpoint is different as well, that we should look to our elders as as sages, almost, ones who have advice, who have been through it, and maybe if we listen to them, maybe we won't make the same mistakes. So I'm not going to share all 30 lessons today. Some of them impacted me a lot, some not so much. I do recommend, if you're interested in any of the stuff that I shared today, check out the book, and you might get some stuff out of it. There's some really fascinating stories that I won't have time to share all that stuff. But I'm going to share 18 of the life lessons that impacted me the most today. He breaks them up into 5 different topics: marriage, your career, parenting, getting older, living without regrets, and leading a happy life. So, you ready? Yeah. Topic number 1, marriage. So today, statistics show that there are less people getting married in America than previously, yet it is still the norm. 90% of Americans still will get married at some point in their lives. So if you're hearing this, you're either married or you probably will marry. Some of you may never get married. But how do you do it well? If that's our destiny for most of us, or if you're already in that relationship, how can we have a successful marriage? How can we do well at it? Well, lesson number 1, and some of these lessons I'm going to breeze through real quick, others I'll spend some more time on. Lesson 1, friendship is as important as romantic love. Marriage is hard. Marry someone you actually like, that you actually want to hang around with. And after you've married them, nurture that friendship. It doesn't become just a business relationship. Spend time with your spouse. Marry someone who's your friend, and then spend time with that person who's your friend, or you're not going to have that friendship. And many of these elders, they shared heartbreaking stories of marrying quickly someone that swept them off their feet, and then they were committed to the marriage, but they realized, we don't connect. There's no friendship here. Or they didn't invest in that friendship, and they lived 2 separate lives. They stayed married because they were committed to it, but they had a frustrating 50-year marriage. And so many of them gave this tip: make that friendship is as important as romantic love. One of the guys said this: think back to the playground when you were a kid. Your spouse should be that kid you wanted most to play with. So many of you, young people, hearing this, and some of you are thinking about marriage and looking at guys or girls and thinking about, I could see myself with them. All right, well, if it's just the looks, look beyond that. If it's just whatever, you like the way they play guitar and sing, I don't know. You look beyond. Would they be a friend? Is this someone that you could actually, that you could spend the rest of your life with and actually be a friend of for the rest of your life? If yes, okay, possibly a good option for marriage. If no, look somewhere else. Lesson 2, don't keep score. Marriage is not a vending machine where you put in your $2 and out pops a soda. Where you look at your marriage and you're like, well, I'll take out the trash, you do the dishes. But if you don't If you don't do the dishes, I'm not taking out the trash. I'll put in my 50%, you put in your 50%, we'll make this work. Marriage is not that. Marriage is not a contract that I'll do this, but if you do that, and if you don't do that, I'm not going to do what I said I would do. Marriage is you give it your all. One of the old guys, he talked about that his grandkids asked him one time, he'd been married for, I don't remember what it was, like 50-some years. His grandkids asked, what is marriage to you? What does it look like? And he said, well, they were in a city park. And he said, you see over there, that statue of a team of horses pulling a wagon? That's marriage. It's two horses, two people pulling that weight with everything they've got. And if one of the horses starts to get a little slow, they're a little weaker, they can't quite make it, that's okay, because the other one's just got to pull that much harder. It's not an agreement that I'll do my part if you do your part. It's you do everything for the benefit of the other person all the time. An 87-year-old guy shared this. Don't consider a marriage a 50-50 affair. Consider it 100%, or even 110%. That's to allow for the lack of objectivity about our own 100%. It's got to be mutual. If you want a successful marriage, unfortunately today the average marriage, I think I saw, it was the average marriage in America lasts 8 years. If you want, most of these old guys were married 40, 50, 60 years. And he said, if you want a successful marriage, that's the way you got to view it, that I give it my all. And if my spouse is lacking somewhere, well, I make up the difference because I've committed to them. Lesson 3, don't just commit to your spouse, commit to marriage itself. If you want a successful marriage, you can leave no option for divorce. Like, okay, if there's abuse or something like that, all right. But if you want to succeed, that divorce can't be an option where you say, well, if she's not a good cook, I'm out of here. If he leaves his underwear on the floor, that's it. It's over. No, you've got to come into it not just committed to your spouse, but you go into it committed to the ideal of marriage. That as some of these older guys in the interviews, they talked about that. They really felt this, that in honoring marriage, they were making an impact in society. They were helping hold society together. And many sociologists will say that's exactly what happens, that the bedrock of society is the marriage unit. If the marriage unit, and you can look at the history of different cultures and empires, when the marriage unit starts to dissolve, the society starts to dissolve. It happened in the Greek Empire, the Roman Empire. You can go back even further. When marriage becomes something loose and men can have multiple wives, men can sleep around, there's not a lot of value placed in marriage, then it's not very long before society itself will start to crumble. So these older people, they talked about seeing the value of not just I'm giving my life to my spouse, but I'm giving my life to my spouse because marriage matters, because this commitment matters. A 2019 survey of Americans found that 70% of Americans said that divorce was morally acceptable no matter what. So 70% of Americans say that it's okay to get divorced no matter what. No wonder 50% of marriages end in divorce. If you want your marriage to last, divorce cannot be an option, barring abuse or extreme circumstances. All right, topic number 2, your career. We work a lot. You will spend at least 60 years of your life, well, probably, depending on when you die and when you started working, you will spend the majority of your life working in a career of some sort. You will spend every year at least if you work full-time, 40 hours a week, you'll spend, on average, the average worker spends 1,800 hours. 1,800 hours working a year. That's the average worker in America. So you're going to devote a lot of your time, a lot of your energy, a lot of your life to work. So how can you do it successfully? How can you make the best of it? Lesson number 4, number 1 in this topic, choose a career for the intrinsic rewards, not the financial ones. Quote from the book here, the author says, "The view from the end of life is straightforward. Time well spent trumps money anytime." Over and over and over again, these interviewees said, don't take a job because it pays well. Take a job you love. Take a job that's rewarding. It will pay off in the long run. You'll feel so much better. Your marriage will be better. Your kids will be happier. You'll be happier. It's not worth it to sacrifice your enjoyment for money. One guy, one 76-year-old, put it this way: if you're not happy, get out. All right, there we go. So, especially to you young people that are thinking about what to do with your life and where to go, what sort of career to take, where to go for school and all that, don't make your decision based on, you know what, I think I could get a really good job if I do this. Do what you love. Yeah, it's important to make sure you're not, if what you love is, I love playing video games, well, okay, maybe you got to find something that could pay the bills. Or you just figure out a way to make money doing that. I'm sure there's ways. Lesson number 5, still under your career: be willing to take a risk to find a job you enjoy. One of these old guys, an entrepreneur, he said it this way: don't be afraid to move around and try different things, no matter how old you are. There's no way around it. You have to be a risk taker. Because if you don't take any risks, you don't get any sweetness out of life. And the truth of the matter is that the sweetness in life comes with the risk. I would say this doesn't apply just to your career, your job. It applies to all of life. Following God, you're going to have to take a risk. You can't play it safe. You want to have enjoyment in life. If you want to be able to have some stories to tell, some cool testimonies of what God has done for you. You want to have memories that you can share with people. You're going to have to take risks. You're going to have to do something, not just always play it safe and do what's easy, do what is comfortable. You're going to have to take a risk, step out in faith. Lesson 6, make the most of a bad job. So what if you listen to this, you're like, oh, that'd be great to just, magically find a career I love, but I don't really even know what I love. All I know is that I got to pay the bills, and I'm stuck here as a dishwasher, and I hate it, and my fingers get all pruny, and then they get chapped because they get dry, and I hate my job. I don't like this. People are crabby around me. What do you do then if you're stuck in a job and you don't see a way out of it? Well, their advice was unanimous. Make the best of it. If you're there, stop complaining, stop whining about it. Suck what you can out of that job. Be a blessing where you are. Do your work in excellence. Serve as well as you can. Do everything in excellence. Learn all you can. These guys talked about being stuck in dead-end jobs, and they decided, you know what? I'm going to learn. And I'm going to become the best dishwasher I am. I'm going to become the best janitor I can possibly be. And they learned everything about cleaning, learned everything about washing dishes, learned everything about selling cars. Whatever job they had that they didn't like, they said, I'm going to be the best I can at it, and I'm going to learn everything I can. And then some of those skills that they developed while learning in that dead-end job ended up becoming useful just in regular life or at a job later on. And choose to find joy in your bad job. One woman shared a story about when she was in college, she had to quit college for financial reasons and get whatever job she could find. And the only job that she could get hired for at the time was as a, a debt collection officer. And she did not want that job. Nobody wants that job. But she got the job. She needed a job, so she took it. She decided, you know what? I'm going to make the best of this situation. She decided to treat each one of their clients as real people, call them, figure out why, actually ask them, why are you struggling with this? What's going on in your life? And actually work with them, respect them as individuals, and actually help them to pay their debts. To the point where she ended up loving her job, felt like she was ministering to these people and helping them become debt-free. And the bank that she worked for started getting letters from her clients just saying, thank you so much. We love the debt collection department. And so the presidents of the whole organization ended up contacting the president of the local bank saying, what is going on over there with you guys? Nobody loves the debt collection officers. If you've got a dead-end job, serve with all your heart. Learn all you can. Be a blessing where you are, and find joy in that job, and you will make an impact. Okay, topic 3. You guys like this stuff? It's fun stuff, isn't it? I like it. Topic 3, although if I ask you and you say no, nobody would have said no, probably. Topic 3, parenting. So if you have children, you are very aware that they suck tons of time and energy. What? Oh, that's funny. I was like, what's so funny about this? I'm sorry. So, right? Boy, I know where Brian and Jesse's hearts are at. Children suck a lot of time and energy. They take all your focus for decades of your life, and then even after they grow up and move out, you're still their parent. It's not like, oh, you're 18, done. I'm not going to think about you and worry about you anymore. No, you're their parent forever. So how can we do this parenting thing well? And if you're not a parent, if you don't have kids, or some of this stuff may not be applicable to you right now, but maybe in the future you might have kids. Or maybe you are a kid, and some of these you'll go, oh, okay, I can forgive my parents for not doing those because that doesn't sound easy. Okay, so lesson 7 on parenting, it's all about time. In the book here, he writes, in the view of the experts, he refers to the old people as experts because they are experts at living because they've got quite a few years of doing it. So I like that. In the view of the experts, your kids don't want your money or what your money buys anywhere near as much as they want you. Specifically, they want you with them. Even if it means doing with less, America's elders tell you that what you will regret at their age is not having spent more time with your children. And it's what your children will regret too. This one hit me pretty hard. I can be very busy with church stuff, with deliveries, with whatever is going on, and forget I've got these little kids that are asking me to play Legos or to sit down and draw with them, and one day they're going to be a teenager and be like, could you not sit and play Legos by me? Spend time with your kids. And one of the fascinating things so he interviewed thousands of old people, and he also talked with their kids and grandkids as well, just to get a whole picture of everything. And one of the things that really stood out to me was a lot of the kids, they talked about the unplanned time and time together with their parents in mundane things, like pulling weeds together. Like it meant a lot to them. So we're going to have you guys pull weeds together a lot more. Fixing the car, little things like that as parents, sometimes we're like, oh, it's a lot harder if I get them to help me. If I do it myself, I can get it done faster. But that time you spend with them makes a massive impact in their lives. So as parents, involve your kids in what you're doing. It will make an impact them in the long run, and also involve yourself in what your kids are interested in. You know, maybe don't get frustrated at your 8-year-old son for not wanting to discuss Shakespeare with you. Instead, he likes Legos. Let's play Legos with him. And if you don't have kids, well, forgive your parents for maybe seeming too busy. They didn't know what they were doing. Lesson 8, take a lifelong view of relationships with children. When you're raising kids, life is a blur. This author, he talked about it as the middle-age blur, where all you're doing, you're changing diapers, you're feeding your kids, you're cleaning the house, you're repairing drywall because your son's punched a hole through it, you're fixing the car because the teenager didn't know how to shift the gears right, you're working really hard because you got to have a big enough house, pay the bills for the big enough house and everything that all the kids need. And it's just this blur. But we have to have a long-term view of it, because things that we do with our kids now, so we have our kids at home with us for just a very short time, but the bulk of our relationship with our kids, they won't be at home with us. They're going to be adults. You'll have a relationship with them for 40, 50 years probably, unless they annoy their older brother too much, and then it's going to be a lot shorter relationship that they have because they won't be here. So invest in your kids for the long term. He asked this question: what are you doing now when your child is 5, 10, or 15 that will create a lasting, loving relationship over the much longer time of his or her adulthood and your middle and old age? The elders urged people in the interviews over and over and over again to invest in their kids now, because when we get old, we're going to wish we had a better... Well, some of them said, I wish I would have invested in my kid when they were younger and built a relationship, built a friendship with them, because now that I'm old, they rarely talk to me, and I know it was my fault for not investing in them. Others said that they were so grateful that they took the time to build that friendship, because now that they're in their 90s, they have their 70-year-old kids coming over and hanging out with them. That's going to be fun. So invest in your kids now. Topic 4, getting older. The book calls this chapter, I like the title for this chapter, they called it, Find the Magic, Lessons for Aging Fearlessly and Well. The truth of the matter is that if you are not already old, you probably will get there one day. Unless, again, you annoy your older brother too much, then you may not arrive even into adulthood. I'm not trying to. Old age is going to happen to probably all of us, hopefully, right? So how can we do it well? Well, they have some cool lessons to share. Lesson 9 here, being old is much better than you think. The consensus among those interviewed was that getting old was actually pretty fun, that there were a lot of benefits to it that they had no idea were in store for them. One 86-year-old said it this way, all I would say to an 18-year-old is don't think of old age as old and decrepit and you're on your way to the graveyard, the morgue or whatever. It's much better than that. I hope so. There are a lot of things out there that you haven't yet experienced, and they'll bring you loads of pleasure and interest. You know, if you think about it, that makes complete sense. It's like you don't change, you're still interested in stuff, you still grow and you still want to learn new stuff, you're just a little older and you got to adjust what you do. You may not go hang gliding, but you can still have a lot of fun, or you may go hang gliding. 76-year-old shared this, I'd tell young people that being old is great, because you can do as you darn well please and enjoy whatever you want. You're not tied down. You can do as you want to. You know, we tend to, especially in our culture, have an aversion to old age. People get scared of getting old. You look at the beauty market in America and like anti-aging devices, and I'll take this medicine, it'll de-age you by 10 years. You'll look younger. I'll take Botox and creams and all these different things to look younger, feel younger, fool yourself into thinking you're younger. We tend to have this aversion to old age, but the elders, they all unanimously said, it's really not that bad. There's a lot of perks to getting older. And they pointed to 2 main things that they were not expecting. 2 main changes in their lives that they were not expecting. One was a sense of peace, serenity, calmness, contentment that came to them that they didn't have when they were younger. They talked about when they were younger feeling like, I got to build something, I got to fix something, I got to do this, I got to become something, or always putting out fires, always having, you're kind of bound, you have a lot of responsibilities that you have to take care of, a lot of pressure, but then as they got older, they're like, I don't have that anymore, and just this peace and serenity, calmness came upon them. And the second thing was a sense of adventure and freedom to do new things that they never had before. When you're younger and you're taking care of your family, you're working, you're trying to pay the bills, you kind of have a lot of obligations laid out for you that you have to be there. But these older guys were talking about, I don't have obligations. I can do what I want when I want to. And having a newfound freedom and a sense of adventure with that I could learn whatever I want. I could go with a friend, get a cup of coffee. It's okay. So they all said getting older was actually a lot better than they expected. Lesson 10, act now like you will need your body for 100 years. This one also really hit home for me. Let me read a quote from the book here. Stop using, I don't care how long I live, as an excuse for bad habits. Behaviors like smoking, poor eating habits, and inactivity are less likely to kill you than to sentence you to years or decades of chronic disease. You know, I had said that in my head many times. I have said that. Yeah, that's many times. You know, it doesn't matter. You know, I try to eat mostly healthy, and I get some exercise. But I'm like, you know what? If I'm not that healthy, oh well. So I die a little younger. I see Jesus sooner. And I'm like, reading these people's stories, though, they were so heartbreaking, where a lot of these guys were talking about, yeah, my husband would overeat all the time. Then and it wasn't that he died younger. No, he died, you know, yeah, you're going to die younger if you have poor health habits, if you don't get exercise, if you overeat, if you smoke, if you drink too much. You will die younger. But the real pain is not in the fact that you lose a few years. The real pain is you have decades of suffering, chronic disease, that you have to be hooked up to a breathing machine, carry around an oxygen tank. You have to be wheeled around places because you don't have strength to walk on your own. You have to take insulin. You go into comas or almost go into a coma. You pass out because your blood sugar levels aren't right. You can't move around. You're not mobile anymore because you didn't take care of your body. That's the real problem of not taking care of your body now. The suffering that it's not that you get to mercifully escape early. No, it's you prolong your suffering. That rather than having an enjoyable end of your life, you have 20, 30 years of suffering, pain, and misery. And the worst part of it, hearing from the spouse's perspective and the kid's perspective was really heartbreaking, because they said the worst of it was their selfish lifestyle hurt them, but it really hurt the rest of us, because we were the ones that had to call the ambulance when they passed out. We were the ones that had to haul them over to the hospital. We were the ones that had to give them the insulin. We were the ones that had to drag them around in their wheelchair. And if they just had stopped overeating, if they just had stopped smoking, they never would have gone through that. And we could have had dad or mom full of life and joy at the end. But instead, they were suffering, and we were suffering with them. Take care of your body. Treat it like it needs to last 100 years, because many of us will live to 100 years. And do you want the last 20, 30 years of your life to be where you feel mostly okay, or do you want it to be in misery and you're causing misery to others? Take care of your body now so that it will last well for 100 years. One guy, a 77-year-old, he said it this way: "Well, I know this. Aging is okay, but if you have to be pushed around in a wheelchair with an oxygen tank, if there's anything in life that you know right now that can prevent that, do it. Because as you get older, that's when you really have an opportunity to sit back and enjoy life a lot more, but only if you're not in terrible health. Whatever you can do to maintain your health, do it now." There was a study, a 34-year study that took place in Alameda County, California. It's called the Alameda County Study. 1965 to 1999, they looked at the relationship between lifestyle and health of lifestyle choices and the health of residents of Alameda County. They found that those who followed 5 practices lived healthier and longer lives. Don't smoke, get exercise, don't overeat, get 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night, and don't drink too much alcohol. It's not that hard. Take care of your body now. Get things in order now, because it's not that, okay, maybe I just die younger. No, it's that you will prolong the misery on yourself and on others if you don't take care of your body now. Don't do that to your spouse or your children. Amen. Topic 5, living without regrets. Maybe I got to do this next week too, finish this up. Should I just end there? Should we finish this next week? Sure. All right, we'll do that. Because, the last 2 are my favorites anyway, and then I can make sure spend some good time on there. I don't want to rush through it. Okay, so what did we do today? We did marriage, we did your career, we did parenting, and we did getting older. All good things. Lord, I want to thank you for the wisdom that you've given these elders. And Lord, that none of this is earth-shattering, groundbreaking new stuff. I think most of it, I'm hoping, and I'm guessing that as I shared these things, most everybody hearing this was like, yeah, I know that. But Lord, help us to put it into practice. Help us, Lord, to take care of our bodies. God, we don't know how much time we have on this earth, but Lord, our body is a temple, and we want to take care of it for you, because who knows if we're going to have 100 years or 80 years or whatever we're going to have, Lord. We want to use our bodies for your glory. Lord, I pray that we would invest ourselves in our kids and parent them well. Lord, I pray for those looking at careers and looking toward marriage and things like that, Lord, that we would be guided by wisdom, not guided by money in terms of careers, not guided by just flashy romance, come and go, whatever. She looks cool. Let me pursue her, Lord. That we would be guided by wisdom, guided by truth in life, and that we would build our lives principally on the bedrock of your word. But also, Lord, I don't want to discount the wisdom of people who've lived it. So, Father, I pray for us that we would receive it, and even in this next year, 2025, God, that if there's things to change, God, that we would do it, that we'd stop playing games, stop fooling around, and that we would get our lives in order so that we can finish well in the end. In Jesus' name. Amen.